to the Modern Husbands podcast, where any combination of Dr. Ross, Christian, and Brian host national experts who share ideas to manage money and the home as teammates. Today's topic is Dad Strength, wisdom on the health, work, and relationship practices you need to get to the next level in your life. Our guest is Geoff Girvitz, who is an expert in behavior design and functional exercise. And of course, he's a dad. Geoff designed Dad Strength as a way for men to take care of themselves so that they can take better care of the people in their lives. He has been featured in Vice, GQ, T-Nation, among others. Through online calls, in-person meetups, and retreats, Geoff facilitates the development of the discipline, habits, and strategy that busy dads need in order to take the next big leap, whether it's professional or personal. You can learn more about Geoff, his program, his podcast, and his services at dadstrength.com, the Dad Strength Podcast on Instagram, and Dad Strength page on Facebook. There's much to discuss today, so without further ado, let's get started. Geoff, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
All right, let's just start with you telling us about Dad Strength.
So, once upon a time, I got my wife pregnant, and during that time, I started thinking, wow, I want to be an okay dad. I want to be a great dad. What do I need to do to make that happen? I come from a health and fitness background. I've run a personal training studio in Toronto it'll be 15 years this summer. So I'm a systems guy and I'm a health guy. And so I tend to look at things through the lens often of health systems. And I started just having a lot of one-on-one conversations with dads and trying to figure out like, I have this sort of luxury of building. I am like over time building a product, but it's based on what is actually useful. So I'm not in a hurry to make the next app or the next whatever. I just wanted to see what actually has utility for people. And as I had all these one-on-one conversations with dads, some themes started to emerge. And one of those is, I think, a fairly universal aspiration for fathers is we want to be present. When we show up. So, sometimes we have really busy schedules, but when we show up, we want to really show up. And so what are the things that pull us out of the present moment? And a lot of this is how do we manage our health priorities? How do we manage tougher emotions like anxiety and frustration and boredom, like all these things that don't necessarily make it to the Hallmark movies or get talked as much about as parents. But, there's some incredible emotions. It is the full suite. Never in my life have I experienced such a depth and breadth of emotion, but it's not all amazing. Sometimes you're just frustrated and you're trying to get out of the door. So in those moments, how do we still show up? How do we develop our patience? How do we develop our own self-regulation? And the other thing is I find that health is so much like a pyramid scheme, or I don't know, a Ponzi scheme. Like it's something we tell everybody else they should do. You should really take care of yourself, right? It's really easy to give other people that advice. And so, in addition to all the health stuff, I do a lot of behavior design stuff. And, I started realizing that fathers have a particular set of constraints. And if you have this image in your head of, the way you used to work out when you were 19 years old and lived in your parents' basement, or you were in school and you just didn't really have as much going on and you were in a much younger body, like you can't compare these two situations. And if you keep doing it and insisting that fitness has to look in this way, that's, I think, where a lot of people get stuck and just don't pick up the ball to begin with. So we have to be really pragmatic and say, hey, what do we have going for us in terms of time, energy, bandwidth, and how do we get the highest ROI out of that stuff? So it's not investment stuff in your work, like the same as it is for you with finances, but it is very much a question of, if I've got a little bit of energy, how do I invest that astutely so I'm going to get a little bit more?
I wanted to start the conversation with just asking you, about Dad Strength because I knew that our listeners would hear that and they would instantly relate. I am 45 and I was a subpar college athlete and fourth player off the bench for the fifth grade Clinton County basketball team. And I still have like these memories in my head of, working out, pretty, when you're in college, you're working out pretty hard and doing these things. And I work out like 4 days a week. And, I just lift and do a little bit of running. That looks pretty slow because it is. But last week I went to play full court basketball and just muscle memory. I did a turnaround jumper and I've done it since I was like in the fourth grade. It's kind of, everyone has their like gravy shot. And I turned around and I didn't jump. I literally, my legs nothing happened. I just fell. And it was like, it was awful. Yeah. Everyone's like, are you okay? I felt like a geriatric. And like that moment, I realized my body can't do what it did, not even more slowly. And so when we were talking earlier, I just thought, boy, our listeners need to hear this because physical fitness is such an important part of our happiness. And it's really hard to be a great spouse and a great father if we're unhappy. And in your description, you explained that you're a systems guy, and we've talked about this before. Can you explain to our listeners what that means?
When you're kind of on the outside looking in at something, I think it's really easy to overestimate what is required for progress, and what I would say is to anyone listening, think about what you have expertise in. Like, what do people ask you about? What do you do professionally? What do people come to you for advice about? And I would be willing to bet that your understanding allows you to be more granular about stuff and say, hey, all you need is a small step. Like, here's the next sort of micro step to do the thing. And if we think about stuff that you don't know as much about, and we all have this, right? We have to sort of know the boundaries of our own knowledge, right? We don't want to break our epistemics. We tend to think, wow, I need a really big thing. Oh, I want to start cycling. And I think about this about twice a year. Yeah, I should finally get a road bike and just, hit it. And it's like, I'm going to need the outfit. I'm going to be a mammal. You know what that is? A middle-aged man in Lycra. Yeah. I'm going to need like a $6,000 bike, and I'm going to need a pro training regimen and an amazing, indoor trainer. It's like, or everybody who cycles or who has cycled knows there's always like one guy in the race. I'm thinking more mountain bikes, but like he's in jorts. He's in denim shorts. He's got an old beater mountain bike that's maybe not even an alloy, and with like a basket on it, and he's smoking everyone, and he just doesn't care. So it's like, yes, we can really worry about the minutia and these like sort of elite details, but most of us just have to do more of the thing. So I look at health. It's really easy to go, okay, well, how much are you exercising or how intensely or, what's the program? But there's so many more components. There's the physical piece of health. So we would look at exercise. Yeah. I would also look at daily movement, which I kind of bucket out into a different category. I'm going to look at sleep and nutrition and stress management. And then, the thing is, we are biological organisms. And these are our constraints, right? So as iron as your will may be, there's still sort of a finite lifespan for this. There's a way to take care of your body. There's a way to take care of your mitochondria. But we have other domains of health. What is your environment? You can have a world-class fitness regimen, and if you're living in a toxic dump, it's probably not going to go that great. What are your relationships like? And do you have people to have real conversations with? Can you be honest? Can you be open? I mean, it's not therapy, but it's therapeutic to just be able to have these conversations. Do you have sufficiency? This is a thing that you and I have spoken about at some length. Do you have sufficiency financially? And that's not to say, do you have $1 billion and a super yacht, but are you okay? Can you handle an emergency? Right. Do you have enough, in the bank? So if you hate your job, and which is another piece of environment, perhaps, that you can afford to make a shift. And by the way, does your job fit? with your needs, like your attachment needs. I think of this in terms of how do we want to relate to people? Is the environment supportive? Is it poison? Is it super stressful? Vocation and finances are often tied, but not always. And so there are all these dimensions of health that we can look at, and rather than trying to over-index on money, which I think everybody tries to do, or is like one of the dominant messages in North America, how do we have sufficiency there? How do we have enough sufficiency in all these domains that if somebody kicks the legs out from under us in any one, right, you have a surgery and you're on your butt for a while, or or something happens with your job and your identity as a breadwinner or your ability to pay for the things you want, like that falls down. Do we have enough resilience from all these other places? And that's how we really build a strong organism.
When you started, you were describing the folks who feel like they need to go spend a bunch of money to get into something. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus here, but let's just say I have quite a few friends and spouses of friends who have ellipticals in their basement that are coat hangers, that have $2,000 bikes, but they don't ride them. They have Fitbits that they don't use, and I don't have any data behind this. It just feels like so many people feel like they can buy their way into health by buying fitness equipment, and it's just nothing but just nonsense. And I love the fact that your end goal really is sufficiency, right? I mean, maybe you're a listener and you have a six pack and you run marathons and you can, bench press 400 pounds, good for you. But most of us don't have the time to do that. We want to be healthy. We want to be able to put enough time in to feel good about ourselves, to look all right, and to be good fathers and good spouses. And when you and I were talking earlier, I think that's the sufficiency that so many of us want. And you don't have to go overboard spending an obnoxious amount of money doing it. And so let's just say, you are this person who wants to start to get into a habit of just being more active. You want to feel better about yourself. You want to be healthy. Just what's some low hanging fruit, some easy ways to do that?
Yeah. Usually my first advice on stuff like this is go walk, get outside. People grossly, dramatically underestimate the impact, the value of walking. It can,
you have to work at it, don't you? If you have an Apple Watch, you realize, wow, you really have to have an objective to go out and really spend quality time walking.
It's not going to happen by accident. None of this stuff happens by accident. Yeah. But all right, so let's look at things through a behavior design lens. We've decided, right, that we want to walk, and maybe you're listening to this going, that's not good enough. I need a bigger thing. I need a more dramatic thing. And so my question would be, first, why? Are you sure you want faster outcomes? So maybe it's a patience thing, or maybe there's sometimes, we talk about cognitive biases, and I think there's sort of a fitness list of cognitive biases. And one of those is, trying to make up for lost time. And it just doesn't work very well. So let's just say, if you create this space in your life to walk, you could theoretically walk to somewhere and do some kind of higher ROI fitness activity. You've made the space, right? So let's just use this as sort of a holding position, or just kind of setting the space and opening up opportunities for more things, because the number one factor in the success of any fitness program is your consistency. It isn't even effort, quite as it's kept, right? It's not your expertise. It's not having a world-class program. It's, are you doing the thing, right? And on top of that, I would say, are you doing the thing and then not getting injured from doing the thing? And if we're covering that, you're going to be okay. And then on a day that you have a surplus of motivation, there are going to be opportunities, and people are pretty creative. People are pretty strategic and pretty smart. And so if you are, like, for myself, I kind of have a rule, and I think a lot of fitness stuff works well when you have simple rules. And my rule is I go fast uphill. And so if I'm biking, even when I'm tired, I'm going to crank it on a hill. If I'm walking, I'm going to walk fast. And, I walk my son to school every morning. He knows the hill. And if we're running late, we can walk, and we're jogging it out. We'll walk at the top of the hill. If I'm walking at night alone, often I'll jog up a hill. I'm not out for a jog. I'm out for a walk. But when you have surplus motivation, you can always apply it intelligently in whatever context you have. And how do you become an expert in these contexts? Well, you spend a bunch of time in them, right? So, yeah.
A quick moment of appreciation for our sponsor, Money Marriage University, who delivers self-paced online courses for couples designed by national therapy and financial planning experts. Money Marriage U experts understand how to help couples hurting from arguments and tension around money. Money Marriage U offers a wide variety of online courses at different price points. Take your first step toward healing your pain by visiting moneymarriageuniversity.com. Once again, you can learn more at moneymarriageuniversity.com. Now back to the show.
I have my one of my kids plays sports, and two of them did at one time, and what I saw consistently was that there was always a group of parents who would walk or run around whatever complex it was. Mm-hmm. Let's say it was a soccer mm-hmm. field, and they did it for an hour and a half, whatever the length of the practice was. And I used to be a youth soccer coach, and I would look at that and think, wow, that's such a great use of time. I mean, you're here, and you would have some parents that were kind of sitting in the car doing nothing, and they were inevitably not in as good a shape as the parents that decided, well, I got to be here anyway. I'm going to work out and watch my kid. And that, as you're describing, like these simple ways in which we can just be active, particularly for like modern husbands who are also fathers. We got to do these things because there's just not very much time. What are the advantages of making time with your partner, your husband, your wife, whatever, to get into a routine of working out together?
Yeah, I think it's such an individual dynamic. As somebody who's owned a gym for a long time, I've seen all kinds of things, and there's some folks that work out together. Great. And in fact, we'll tailor, we write individual programs for everyone. We try to make the programs as similar as possible for as long as possible, right? Because it's fun for them to kind of do the same stuff. There are other people, more commonly, they come in and they each do their own thing, but they're kind of sharing the energy. It would be called, introverts call this parallel play. We're in the same space. Okay. We're doing our own thing. Sure. And there's some people that specifically, emphatically say, I want to make sure I'm never here at the same time as my partner, or there are other people who are like, one of us had to pick who goes here. And so I think it's really individual, but I think there is always room. It's sort of like this expression of self-care, right? Or care for your partner. It's kind of both. And so that could be anything. That could be a walk. That could be a quiet minute at night. Massage is tremendous. Like, what a great way. I'm a big fan of, like, what a great way to just kind of show care. Like, you're tired. It's at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Don't half-ass it. Do the full massage. Like, put something into it, and then spend more than 2 minutes. But there are all these ways. Getting someone a glass of water. Support. We talk about love languages sometimes, even though it's funny. So many people have come at me lately, debunking it. No, it was indeed like a made up sort of series of things, but the concept is great in the sense of what you think of as sort of emotional or energetic currency might be different than your partner's. And a really great relationship dynamic I found is when it's easy for you to supply their thing and it's easy for them to supply your thing. And so that could be, again, that a lot of guys need to learn the skill of listening without problem solving. That's a classic one, right? But that's health, right? If you can do that in motion, if you can do that while while cooking healthy food, or eating healthy food slowly and mindfully together. If you can do it at the gym, if you can do it through other physical activities, I mean, it's all wonderful stuff. So I don't know if I have a specific prescription other than kind of keep your eyes open, look for opportunities where it's a real win-win.
I like how you brought up finding things that are low lift activities for you, but that for them is really important. So, if I can't rehearse the 5 love languages off the top of my head, but I know like physical touch is one of them. So, or doing something for someone is one of them, and another is the importance of being listened to, feeling validated, and so that is, as you were describing it, I was just thinking to myself, one person gets a massage while the other one is an active listener, just understanding what it is that is bothering them, what's hard at work. When help us understand, help the listeners understand why it is so important in modern day when we're all kind of sitting around on our laptops, or at least a lot of us are, and a lot of us work from home. Why is it so important to put systems in place where you have a physical routine, a way to take care of your body that you do on a regular basis?
Can I take you through a little exercise?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
If I got to do jumping jacks on camera, it's gonna get kind of ugly.
It's gonna be we can stay in place for this one.
Okay.
It's just if we were gonna say, all right, here's an unlimited budget, right? All the resources in the world that you need, and we're gonna design your day, right? And you can almost think of it as if you're doing it with software, I think of it as rooms and tunnels. Like the room is where am I doing the thing, right? So most people, beginning of the day is pretty predictable. You'll roll out of bed, you'll probably go to the bathroom first, maybe you go get a drink of water, make an espresso, whatever, however you roll. And so we kind of imagine maybe your first real stop after the bathroom is, okay, I sit down. Okay, well, how do you want your espresso? Do you want it served to you? Do you want it made? Are you a coffee guy, by the way, before I go too far down the...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So so if you were going to design this part of your day, is it served to you? Do you like the ritual of making it? Do you want something easy to make? Do you want a huge $10,000 machine? How do you want your espresso delivered, and where do you want to drink it?
All right. So if you're looking at starting my day, I would start with a cortado, and it would be in Murin in the Swiss Alps, overlooking kind of all the mountains in the Lauterbrunnen Valley, with the
Amazing.
only technology would be something to listen to, no phone.
Okay, so you get some music. You have a cortado, which is, by the way, a highly underrated espresso drink.
Absolutely. Yes.
So well played, sir. Okay, so you're listening, to peaceful music. You're looking at this incredible view, right? And then we think about, all right, what's the next thing? And that might be, family time. And then we have our designated space. And then I want to fast forward a little bit to going to work. And even if you work at home, right? We might say, I'm going to design, like if it were up to me, I'm designing this, I'm going to have like a 30-minute walk through a forest corridor, even though I wind up in the exact same place, right? Like, so you might design something like this. Would you have a walk, drive, bike, cross country ski to work? How would you do it for yourself?
Oh, a hike. For sure.
Hike.
Anywhere out in nature. Yep.
Right. And then you arrive and you've designed this sort of perfect office environment. So I love going through this with people. And if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to just kind of take yourself through this mental exercise. But here's the most interesting thing that I've learned from taking people through it. And that is almost everybody has a life or at least has the capability of a life that is surprisingly close to what they've designed. So I don't walk through a forested corridor to work, or bike, as the case may be. I live downtown in a big city, but I either walk or bike to work every day. I take that time. So even if you're working at home, you can still insert that, right? And you can put it in as you transition into the day. You can put it in as you transition out of the day. I think bookends, right, and these sort of and transitional moments are really important so that you can get your mind right, and among other things, so you don't have constant input. That's the other thing. If you're working at home, and you know, especially if you're a knowledge worker and you're in front of a screen all day, like we have constant input. And from just purely from a learning standpoint, never mind a physical health standpoint, once you've learned something, the next thing, you know, in a perfect world is you stop all input and you have some quiet time to assimilate. Yeah, I had a science teacher in grade 8. We were growing crystals, and everybody kept checking the crystals every day. How they growing? He's like, "Stop it! How would you guys like it if you kept trying to hold hands in a circle? And somebody, every time you're getting close, somebody drove a bus through you." He was, you know, kind of an angry man, but the point has stuck with me. It's like you have to let some of this cook. You have to leave it alone, and especially here's another story that comes to mind. This is there's a book called Todd Herman's the author, and it's basically about creating persona. You create a persona for yourself so that you can really sort of show up as you want to. So he is a professional persona, but he had this story about military guy, like classic hard ass military dad, and he was like, "I'm having real trouble with my kids. You know, I'm just like, I'm grumpy and I'm yelly." And probably not how he would phrase it, and it's not working out at home. And he was like, just out of curiosity, or do you show up when you get back home? Are you in your military uniform? And he said, yeah. And so he had him like Mr. Rogers style change into a sweater before he came home. He created this liminal moment, this transitional piece, so that he could shift into dad mode. And for him, it changed everything. It really helped him show up as a dad, not as as a drill sergeant. And so I think even if you don't have to move, even if your family's in the next room, saying, I'm just going to do my end of day walk around the block, I think that stuff can be really powerful. Physical stuff aside, right, for stress management, for transition time, not just going from being super wired and intense about finishing your workday and then turning around and being with your family. You just have to think about this stuff energetically too. So when I talk about all the efficiencies we need as dads, we say, never mind the health stuff for a second. Just say, what would you need to show up professionally, personally, in the way that you want to? And if you're willing to spend 2 minutes on it, okay. If you're willing to spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes on it, fantastic. And how do we get the highest ROI on our time? We find a way that integrates this aspiration with some kind of movement, some kind of practice that's going to move your physical health forward as well.
You know, I think when you started, you were describing the bookends, and a problem that a few of our listeners have shared with us that I have is that when you work from home, your home is, or your work is never gone. And it's hard to be able to compartmentalize work from your responsibilities as a husband or as a father without some sort of ritual. And I love the idea of just deciding, hey, I'm going to start my day by going outside, and whether it's a walk, a hike, maybe I start my day with a workout, and then I'm going to end my day closing the laptop, but I'm going to go outside. I'm going to take a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, because I feel like that the wisdom behind that is that you are creating an image or a habit where you are physically distancing yourself from your work, albeit briefly, but at least that, psychologically, that could make it easier for you to step away and say, hey, I'm done, and I'm going to be present as a husband. I'm going to be present as a father. So what are 3 strategies that busy husbands and fathers can use to stay active and healthy strategies that you have yet to cover?
So I kind of hinted at one of them, and that is understanding how to get the best leverage out of whatever time we have. And, what I'm about to say, if you don't believe me, I encourage you to test it out, because I think people would be really surprised to know if we are using movement and exercise purely as a way to improve our mood and our focus. If you are really cranky, the question is, how much exercise do you need to noticeably change your mood, noticeably change your feeling? Or if you have anxiety, how much exercise do you need to make that shift? And in my experience, it's as little as 2 to 3 minutes.
Really?
Okay. So is this worth your time? Of course it is. And again, we're always going to have folks that say, so I'll make this number 2. Stop worrying about big things, because will 2 minutes of exercise really move the needle on your physical health? Probably not. It could. It's possible for a couple reasons. But generally speaking, if we average it out, it's not going to be a big deal. It certainly won't hurt. And the thing is, if you become an expert at inserting 30-second moments, 2-minute moments throughout your day, maybe the first 2 minutes don't make a difference, and maybe the next 2 don't. But somewhere after you've added 15 to 20 minutes a day of focused, dialed-in movement, things start to shift. And we can do this incrementally. So you don't have to wait for a better time. You don't have to wait for a time where you have less stress, or your kids are sleeping better, you're sleeping better. And then, the third piece is to sort of master your domain, right? To master your environment. And so I'm lucky. I work, we're having this discussion right now. I'm in a gym. If I've got a few minutes and some extra energy after we're done, I can go swing a kettlebell around, do whatever I want. Let's assume you're in an environment where you don't have any fitness equipment. Have you got a floor? If we know how to leverage these things, and leverage them effectively, you can really make that meaningful. And of course you can say, well, I could spare $20 or $50 or $100 for a good equipment investment. And so, how we were talking about buying these expensive bikes and, ellipticals and everything. And we so often want to, fix our problems through an aspirational purchase. And I don't have a problem with that, but I do think what we should do more often is just MVP it, right? What is, I think that I would really benefit from cycling. Okay, go find the cheapest bike you can and try it and see if, are you getting out? Are you making the time? Like by the time you found like a cycling crew and you're falling behind because you've only got 3 gears or something. Okay, we've got a good reason,
right?
But have
like
butted up against that, right? So before you buy, every few years something comes out that's like, this is the one, guys. We finally solved fitness, right? And now it's mirror stuff, and it was Peloton, and it was Life Cycle, and it was Nautilus, and it's like we just see the same stuff rehashed over and over again,
right?
But there's an incredible amount of stuff you can do. Like for me, highest ROI fitness purchase, maybe some bands, right?
Oh yeah,
or a pair of selectorized dumbbells. More expensive, but it's a thing. Hire an expert to say, I've got this stuff. How do I leverage it the best? Will you design a little mini program for me? Right? It's not what you've got, it's how you use it. So, you can do incredible things with yoga blocks, with furniture sliders, with a backpack full of stuff, right? Sometimes you just need weight. Sandbag is tremendous. There's so much you can do with the sandbag. So it's not about time. And let's just agree that it's not about energy in the sense that you're going to be uncomfortable. Like that's part of being a human being. You're going to be tired and you're going to be uncomfortable. Congratulations. Welcome to fatherhood. Leverage it, because when you invest into this stuff, you're going to find that you have more energy. Usually what's holding people back is either expectations that don't match reality, right? A need for like a focus on outcomes instead of process, or a lack of sort of clarity on like, what can I do right now that's worth my time and energy, right? So these are all the things that I'll look for. And by the time you've solved for all of these, you're making great use of transitional moments in the day and the space you have. And once you have a practice, if you say now, okay, well, I'm going to drop a few fazools on a piece of equipment, right? And I've checked some things out. I've tried some things out. I borrowed one from a friend to see if I would use it and if I would like it. You've got a pretty good shot at making it stick.
I love how you brought up focus on process and not outcomes. I see all the time on like social media, and then friends, they'll have like these fad diets, or they'll have these fad things that they do. And it always just feels like work. For me personally, I just like to go to the gym like 4 days a week, and that's it. I don't want to weigh myself. I just want to do that. And I don't want it to feel like work. I just want it to feel like ritual. And so you have been full of great advice for our listeners, who many of them, kind of sit behind a laptop because they're in the knowledge economy, and they're looking for ways to just feel better about themselves, be a little bit more active in a little time that they have. And you provided lots of nuggets of ideas to be able to do that. So thanks for your time today. Appreciate that. The fact that you came in and were able to give so much to our listeners. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Can I offer one last thing for you specifically?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. It's sometimes, you mentioned you used to be able to do this shot in grade 4. We sometimes forget, like, okay, I don't weigh 60 pounds anymore. Right. And one of the most underutilized things with the highest ROI for any kind of recreational athlete, like when we go to the gym, often we're just, we're moving in a slower manner. We're just moving in one plane. But one of the best things people can do, and this is for runners, this is for anybody that needs to jump, if you're not actively doing that, just bouncing in one place, like you have a skipping rope. You don't even need a skipping rope. Use an imaginary one. Just being able to work up to maybe a couple minutes of this, there's sort of a growing body of evidence that this is useful for all kinds of things, including injury prevention. Because if you want to keep doing the thing, staying healthy is your top priority. So my advice to you, it would be to start doing, small, call them short cycle plyometrics, just bouncing in place. And I think you will find you begin to get your hops again.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks for coming in, full of lots of great ideas.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining today. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We know this is something you often hear, but it truly helps grow our support so we can work to support others. And one final thanks to our sponsor, Money Marriage University. Take your first step today toward healing your pain by visiting moneymarriageuniversity.com. Until next time, be well.